Have you ever stopped and wondered, why do some people glide into their 90s with strength, laughter, and sparkle in their eyes, while others seem to fade too soon, barely making it to 80? It's a hard truth, and I'll be honest, I didn't always want to admit it myself. For a long time, I thought it was all just in the genes or maybe luck. You either had it or you didn't. But over time, I started noticing the quiet patterns, the little habits most of us pick up without thinking, and how those tiny decisions, repeated daily, slowly chip away at our time, our energy, and even our will to keep going. I remember visiting my neighbor Harold a few years back. We used to joke about how retirement was just a long weekend that never ended. But then he stopped gardening, stopped tinkering in the garage, stopped, well, showing up. "I'm just tired," he'd say. We laughed, shared pie, and I never questioned it. But now I wish I had. Here's the good news, though. These aren't problems that require a PhD or a prescription. Most of the time, it just takes a little awareness. A few small changes that feel like nothing today but make all the difference tomorrow. In the next few minutes, I want to share 6 tiny, often invisible mistakes that might be slowly holding you back, and how you can turn them around. You might be surprised at how simple some of these are, and how much life they can give you back. So tell me, have you ever caught yourself thinking, "I guess this is just how it is now"? If so, I want you to know something. It doesn't have to be. You still have time. You still matter. And you deserve to live the years ahead with energy, purpose, and joy. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. Now, let's begin. Why is it that some people seem to thrive well into their 90s, still walking with steady steps, still smiling with bright eyes, still sharp in mind and strong in spirit, while others begin to fade in their late 70s or early 80s, as if their light is quietly dimming before its time? It's a question that haunted me more than once. And for the longest time, I had my explanations ready. "Oh, it's just luck," I'd tell myself. "Some folks just have good genes," or "they must have had a better doctor." You know, the usual things we say when we don't have real answers. But over the years, as I watched friends grow older, and as I grew older myself, I began to notice something that no one had taught me, something that no one puts on a prescription label or mentions in a regular checkup. It wasn't the big things that made the difference. It was the small ones. The subtle daily habits. The quiet choices made on ordinary afternoons. And most of all, the slow, unnoticed ways we begin to let go of life before it's our time. I remember my Aunt Marian. She made it to 96. Sharp as a tack, even on her last birthday. She still did her crossword puzzles every morning with her toast and coffee. She walked around the block, even if it was slow, even if it took her half an hour. She always had a story to share or a friend to call. And the way she talked about life. She never said, "I'm too old for that." Not once. But then, I think about someone like my old coworker John. He retired at 65, saying he couldn't wait to do nothing for a while. That turned into months. The months turned into years. And before long, John just wasn't the same. He stopped going out, stopped learning new things, and stopped dreaming. And even though he was still with us at 78, it felt like the best parts of him had already packed up and gone. It made me realize something important, something uncomfortable but true. Most people don't die of old age. They die from giving up too soon. Not in the dramatic way you might think, but in the slow, quiet ways. By sitting more than they move, by believing they're no longer needed, by choosing comfort over curiosity, by letting go of their purpose without even noticing. And that hit me hard. Because I saw it happening not just to others, but creeping up in my own life too. The day I stopped taking my morning walk because it was too chilly. The time I didn't sign up for the painting class because, what's the point? The growing pile of books I kept meaning to read, but never did. Those aren't just small missed opportunities. They're signs, warnings, and they're easy to ignore until it's too late. But here's what no one tells you, and what I wish I had understood earlier. These patterns aren't destiny. They're habits, and habits can change. That's the heart of what I want to share with you today. If you're over 60, or even close to it, and you've caught yourself saying, maybe I'm just getting old, or I guess this is how it is now, I want you to pause. Because there's still time. You still have choices. And the quality of the years ahead, whether they're joyful, healthy, purposeful, will depend not on fate or family history, but on what you choose to do next. We're going to talk about 6 small mistakes. Not dramatic, scary things. Not the kind of problems that land you in the emergency room. But the kind of mistakes that hide in plain sight. Ones we've all made, ones I've made, and ones that, left unchecked, slowly take away the very things that make life worth living. Your energy, your independence, your joy. And no, this isn't about guilt or blame. This isn't about being perfect or doing everything right. This is about awareness. About reclaiming what's yours. About deciding right now that you deserve to feel good. To feel strong. To feel alive. These mistakes, they can be reversed. These habits, they can be replaced. And when you do, something powerful happens. You stop counting the years you've lived and start loving the ones that are still to come. So, if you've ever looked in the mirror and felt like the spark is fading, or if you've ever caught yourself thinking, I guess my best days are behind me, please stay with me. You're not alone. You're not done. And you're not too late. Because there's a different path, and it's not only possible, it's well within reach. Let's walk it together. For most of my life, I thought slowing down was just part of growing old. I mean, isn't that what we're told? That it's normal to take it easy after retirement? That the aches and the tiredness and the slower mornings are all just part of aging gracefully? I believed that too. Until one day, I sat in my favorite chair, the one near the window where the light comes in just right in the afternoon, and realized I'd been sitting there for hours. Not reading. Not knitting. Not even dozing. Just sitting. It was comfortable, sure, familiar. But my legs had gone stiff. My back ached. And there was this strange fogginess in my head, like my thoughts were swimming through molasses. And I remember thinking, what happened to me? Here's what I didn't understand then, but do now. It's not aging that's slowing us down. It's the sitting. Our culture has quietly taught us that rest equals recovery, and the older we get, the more we should rest. But resting all day isn't rest, it's retreat. And the body, bless its honest nature, responds to what we ask of it. If we ask it to move, it will try. If we ask it to sit for hours on end, it will shut itself down piece by piece, gently at first, then with more resistance. Every time we sit for too long, we're telling our muscles they're no longer needed. And they listen. Slowly, we begin to lose strength. Not because of age, but because of disuse. The legs get weaker. The back becomes sore. The hips tighten. And here's the quiet tragedy. The weaker we feel, the less we move. And the less we move, the weaker we feel. It becomes a cruel cycle, one that creeps in so gradually we often don't notice it until the stairs feel steeper, the grocery bags feel heavier, and even getting out of bed feels like a task. It's not just the muscles, either. Prolonged sitting has been linked to increased inflammation, the kind that seeps into joints and makes even simple movements hurt. And it dulls the brain. Truly, it does. When your body is still for too long, your circulation slows, your oxygen intake drops, and your mental clarity starts to fade. You don't even realize it's happening until you catch yourself rereading the same paragraph 5 times or forgetting why you walked into the kitchen. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment, one below to let me know that you are still here with me. But it doesn't have to be this way. And this is the part that gives me hope, because the solution is surprisingly simple. You don't need to run marathons or lift heavy weights or join a gym packed with 20-somethings in spandex. You just need to move more than you sit. That's it. Movement doesn't have to be grand to be powerful. Standing up and stretching your arms overhead while the coffee brews. Marching your feet while brushing your teeth. Walking slowly around the living room during commercial breaks. Take the stairs one more time than you usually do. These things may seem small, but they matter more than you know. I once read about a woman in her 80s who regained her strength simply by standing up and sitting down from a dining chair 10 times a day. Just that. 10 times a day. And within a few months, she could walk farther, stand longer, and even kneel to tend to her garden again. Not because she joined a program. Not because she bought fancy equipment. But because she chose to move. And yes, there will be days when your body protests. I've had mornings when my knees creaked like old floorboards, and even the thought of moving felt like too much. But here's the secret. The hardest part is getting started. Once you do, the body remembers. It forgives. It adapts. And the very act of moving begins to give you energy instead of taking it away. I started with small things. I put a note on my TV remote that said, "Stand up every 30 minutes." I placed a chair near the porch just to give myself a destination to walk to. I set a little timer during my afternoon reading time, reminding me to stretch my legs. And day by day, inch by inch, I felt something shift. Not just in my joints or muscles, but in my confidence. I felt less like someone growing old and more like someone growing alive again. There's something powerful about reclaiming control over your body. Something sacred, even. Because when you choose to move, even in small ways, you're telling your body, "I still need you. I'm not done yet." And that message, sent daily, lovingly, intentionally, starts to change everything. So if you found yourself sitting more than you used to, thinking, "Well, I guess this is just life now," I want you to know, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to accept the stiffness, the fog, the fatigue as the price of aging. What you might be feeling is the price of stillness. And the good news? Stillness is something you can change. One step at a time. One stretch at a time. One quiet promise to yourself each morning. Today, I will move more than I sit. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be fast. You just need to begin. Because the longer you sit, the faster everything else slows down. But the moment you start to move, no matter how gently, your life starts moving with you. It's a strange feeling, that moment when the alarm clock no longer rings. No more deadlines, no more early meetings, no more rushing out the door with lukewarm coffee and mismatched socks. Retirement arrives like a long exhale after a lifetime of holding your breath. And for many, it feels like stepping off a treadmill that's been running for decades. But somewhere in that stillness, something unexpected begins to shift. Many people unknowingly make a subtle yet deeply damaging mistake at this stage in life. They retire not just from work, but from thinking, learning, and growing. It starts innocently. You tell yourself you've earned a break. And you have. But then, days start to blur together. You watch the same shows, take the same walks, and have the same conversations. You've traded stress for peace, but you've also stopped feeding your brain the challenges it needs to thrive. You see, the brain doesn't stop hungering for stimulation just because you've stopped working. Quite the opposite. Just like your muscles shrink when you stop moving, your mind can grow dull when it's no longer engaged. Your memory, your clarity, your spark, they don't fade because of age alone. They fade because the brain feels forgotten. There's a common belief that as we get older, we should take it easy, avoid strain, and stay in our comfort zones. But that belief, while comforting, can become a trap. The truth is, the brain craves purpose, even in retirement. Especially in retirement. It needs questions to answer, ideas to explore, and puzzles to solve. It needs a reason to light up. And no, staying busy isn't the same as staying sharp. You can fill your days with chores and errands and still feel like something's missing. That's because the brain doesn't want repetition, it wants curiosity. Think back to when you were a child. Remember how you used to ask, "Why is the sky blue?" Or, "How do birds know how to fly south?" That sense of wonder didn't vanish. It just got buried beneath years of doing what needed to be done. But guess what? Now, you've got the time to ask those questions again. And your brain is waiting for it. Reading isn't just a hobby, it's brain fuel. Whether it's a novel, a historical biography, or even a cookbook with recipes from a place you've never visited, reading opens windows in the mind. It sparks imagination, challenges perspectives, and keeps neural pathways active. If your eyes get tired, audiobooks are a wonderful way to keep the stories flowing. Teaching is another hidden gem. You might think, what do I have to teach? But the answer is, so much. You've lived, loved, lost, and learned. Share it. With grandchildren, community groups, and online forums. Whether it's woodworking, sewing, financial wisdom, or just stories from your youth, your experience is gold. And when you teach, you don't just pass on knowledge, you strengthen your own. And don't be afraid to ask questions either. When someone mentions a new technology, a current event, or even a slang word you don't recognize, lean in. Asking doesn't make you look old, it makes you look alive. Asking questions is how the brain knows you're still in the game. You don't need to enroll in college or solve quantum physics. But challenge yourself in small, joyful ways. Learn a few words in another language. Try a new recipe from a cuisine you've never cooked before. Watch a documentary and talk about it afterward with someone. Try writing down stories from your life, not just for others, but to see where your memories take you. One woman I know, her name's Doris, retired after 40 years in nursing. She told me, "I thought I was done learning. I thought I just knit and bake and rest." But after a few months, she felt foggy, bored, even. Then her granddaughter gifted her a book on medieval history. "I thought it was silly," she laughed. "But I read one page and couldn't stop. That book turned into 10 more." Now Doris leads a weekly discussion group at the local library. "I feel sharper at 74 than I did at 60, she told me proudly. That's the magic of keeping your mind active. It doesn't just preserve your brain, it revives your spirit. You didn't come this far to simply coast through your golden years. You came this far to live them fully. Your brain is still hungry. Feed it. Your voice still matters. Use it. Your story isn't finished. Keep writing it." So I invite you, lovingly, and with all the warmth in my heart, don't mentally retire too early. You've got decades of wisdom and a lifetime of experience. But the adventure doesn't end when the job does. The real journey might just be beginning. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. At 40, maybe you could eat a big burger, a slice of pie, and still feel just fine the next morning. Your body bounced back. You had the energy to burn it off, your digestion worked like clockwork, and honestly, food just didn't feel like something you had to think twice about. But here's the truth, after 60, your body isn't working with the same playbook anymore. Metabolism slows down. Not a little, a lot. Your digestive system gets a little less efficient, and your body's ability to absorb nutrients drops quietly, like a faucet that's just a bit too tight. And yet, most people keep eating like they're still in their prime working years. Big portions, lots of processed foods, late meals, and not enough water. It's not because they don't care. It's a habit, comfort, familiarity. Sometimes, it's even emotional. A warm plate of something salty or sweet can feel like a hug, especially when you're alone. But here's the problem. Over time, these little habits, skipping breakfast, eating too much sodium, grabbing frozen meals, ignoring hydration, they don't just sit quietly in the background. They build. Slowly. Silently. One ache turns into arthritis. One missed glass of water becomes a chronic issue with blood pressure. One sugary treat a day turns into weight gain you can't explain. Your body starts sending subtle warnings: fatigue, swelling, indigestion, foggy memory, and they often get written off as just getting older. But the truth is, it's your body asking for a different kind of care. And here's the gentle but powerful shift. After 60, food isn't just fuel, it's medicine. It becomes one of the most direct ways to support your body and your brain. Prioritizing protein, eggs, beans, fish, even a good shake, helps maintain muscle and prevents frailty. Drinking more water, even if you don't feel thirsty, helps with everything from memory to joint health. Cutting back on sugar doesn't just help your waistline, it protects your brain, your heart, and your mood. And yes, less salt can ease that creeping blood pressure and reduce strain on your kidneys. You don't have to do a dramatic diet overhaul overnight. It can start simply. A glass of water right when you wake up. Swapping out a processed snack for a boiled egg or a few almonds. Skipping that extra spoonful of sugar in your coffee. Cooking one fresh meal a day, even if it's just a simple soup or steamed vegetables with olive oil. Over time, these little acts of self-care add up. They speak to your body in a language it understands. Kindness, attention, nourishment. One man I spoke to recently, Jim, 72, told me, "I didn't realize how much my food was making me tired until I stopped eating like I was 40. His story is one of many. Once he started drinking more water, cutting back on white bread and sweets, and having a small protein-rich breakfast instead of skipping it, his afternoon crashes stopped. He said he felt lighter and more awake, like he'd rolled back the clock 5 years, just by changing what was on his plate. Food can be comfort, yes, but it can also be power. Especially now. It's never too late to change what you feed your body, and in doing so, change the way you feel every day. Because growing older doesn't mean growing weaker. It means growing wiser. And that includes how you eat. So ask yourself, what's one small thing you could do today to nourish your body better than you did yesterday? It's a sentence that sounds so small, so humble, and yet it carries an invisible weight. I don't want to bother anyone. You might have said it out loud once or twice, maybe more. Maybe you've only whispered it to yourself in the quiet moments. But for so many older adults in America today, it's become a way of life. A way of shrinking your needs, your voice, your presence. Until one day, you realize you've disappeared into the background of your own story. Maybe you grew up in a time when asking for help was frowned upon. Maybe you were raised to grit your teeth, to handle your problems privately, to not burden others with your pain. That generation built this country's backbone, fought wars, raised families, and worked double shifts without complaint. So it makes sense. You learn strength through silence. But now, in these later chapters of life, that kind of silence isn't strength anymore. It's isolation. I've met too many good people. Men and women who once lit up rooms, who held neighborhoods together, who were the first to bring food to a friend in need, slowly slip into a kind of invisible sorrow. They stop reaching out. They stop asking for visits, for favors, for time. They sit quietly with their aches, their memories, their quiet fears. And the saddest part is that they think they're doing others a kindness by staying quiet. They think they're protecting their children, their neighbors, their friends from the burden of their presence. But the truth is, no one is waiting for you to suffer in silence. No one who loves you wants you to vanish behind politeness. You are not a burden. You are a bridge. When you speak up, when you say, "I'd love for you to stop by," or "Would you mind helping me with this?" or even just, "I'm feeling lonely today," you are giving someone a gift. A chance to show up. A chance to connect. A chance to love. We live in a world that glorifies independence, especially in our younger years. But real life, especially as we age, was never meant to be lived in isolation. We are wired for connection. Our hearts and minds need it like air. Science backs it up. Seniors who stay socially connected live longer, think sharper, and feel better. But more than that, connection feeds the soul. Think back to a time when someone asked you for help. Wasn't it an honor? Didn't it make you feel useful, needed, even cherished? That feeling doesn't disappear with age. Your children, your friends, your community, they want to show up for you. They just might not know how, or when, unless you invite them in. But when you say, "I don't want to bother anyone," what you're doing is building a wall. And behind that wall, suffering grows louder. Health problems go untreated. Emotions turn inward. Relationships fray from the absence of shared time and experience. It's okay to need help. It's okay to miss someone. It's okay to say, "I'm not okay." That's not a weakness. That's honesty. That's humanity. One woman I met, Elaine, 79 years old, shared with me that after her husband passed, she stopped calling her children as often. "They're busy with their lives," she said, smiling sadly. "I don't want to bother them." But what she didn't realize was that her silence made them think she was doing fine. One day, her daughter came over and found the fridge empty and her mother too weak to stand. Elaine was rushed to the hospital with dehydration and a vitamin deficiency. Not because anyone neglected her, but because she had hidden her needs out of love. A painful irony. Since then, Elaine made a promise. She would reach out, even when it felt awkward or selfish. And her family. They were relieved. They hadn't known how much she needed them, and they were grateful for the chance to show her she mattered. Today, her son calls every evening at 6. Her granddaughter brings groceries on Saturdays. And Elaine no longer hides behind that tired phrase, "I don't want to bother anyone." We all carry that temptation, to be small, to be quiet, to not get in the way. But what if instead we chose to be present? To say, "I still have needs. I still matter. I still belong here." Asking for support doesn't take away from anyone else's life. It enriches it. It creates ripples of compassion, tenderness, and meaning. When you invite someone into your world, even for a short visit or a small task, you are giving them a chance to do something deeply human. Let yourself be loved. Let yourself be helped. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know that we all need each other. No one gets through this life alone, not in youth and not in age. So the next time those words rise to your lips, "I don't want to bother anyone," pause, breathe, and remind yourself of something much more true. My life still matters. My voice still matters. And I am worthy of care, of kindness, of connection. Let them in. Because you're not a bother. You're a blessing. When the alarm clock no longer rings for work, and the house no longer echoes with the laughter or chaos of children, a strange silence settles in. At first, it feels like freedom. No deadlines. No responsibilities. Just time, something you spent a lifetime chasing. But slowly, subtly, that silence begins to shift. It becomes heavy, aimless. And one day, you wake up and ask yourself, what am I waking up for? For many people over 65, this quiet emptiness arrives like an unexpected guest after retirement or after the kids have moved on with their lives. You did your part. You worked. You raised a family. You kept the wheels turning. But now that the routines and roles that once defined you have faded, what's left to pull you out of bed in the morning? The truth is, purpose is not just a luxury of youth. It's not something we outgrow. It's a lifeline. A steady heartbeat that tells your body and your mind, you still matter. Without it, everything begins to wither. Studies have shown that seniors who lack a sense of purpose are more prone to depression, chronic illness, and even cognitive decline. And it's not because they're physically incapable. It's because the why is missing. And without a why, the how to stay healthy, how to keep going, feels meaningless. But here's the powerful truth no one tells you. Purpose doesn't have to be grand to be meaningful. It doesn't have to be starting a non-profit or climbing mountains. Sometimes it's as small and as powerful as planting a seed. A man I once knew, Harold, spent 35 years as a postal worker. Rain, snow, heat, he showed up. He knew his route like the back of his hand. After retiring, he tried to enjoy his free time, but something felt hollow. One spring, he planted a tomato garden in his backyard. It started small, just 4 plants. But every morning, he woke up with excitement to check on them. He watered them, spoke to them, and read about soil nutrients. Those tomatoes gave Harold a reason to rise, a rhythm to his days, and eventually, when he began donating extras to a local food pantry, a sense of contribution. For someone else, it might be a neighbor. A woman named Janice, a retired teacher, found herself slipping into isolation. Her kids lived out of state. Her days felt long. One morning, she noticed her 9-year-old neighbor sitting on the porch, struggling to read a book. Janice offered to help. One reading session turned into weekly meetups. That boy started calling her Grandma January. She didn't just help him read, he helped her live. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. It might be prayer, or journaling, or calling someone every week who's lonelier than you are. It might be baking a pie for the widow 2 doors down, or sharing your stories online so younger folks can learn from your walk of life. Whatever it is, your purpose doesn't need an audience. It just needs to matter to you. A reason to rise. A reason to smile. A reason to step forward when you'd rather lie in bed. Because when we stop living for something, we start just existing. An existence without meaning. It wears on the heart. It weakens the will. But purpose, no matter how small, puts light back into our eyes. It gives shape to our days and strength to our bones. And the beautiful thing is, it's never too late to find it. You can wake up tomorrow and choose something. One thing. Anything. Just something that makes you say, yes, today, I'm needed. So if today felt empty, start small. Look around. Listen. There is someone who needs your wisdom. Something that needs your care. Even if that someone is you. Even if that something is just a single flower, waiting to bloom. There's a belief that quietly settles in the back of the mind as we get older, a heavy, quiet kind of thought that whispers, it's too late. Too late to make a change. Too late to start over. Too late to become someone new. For many of us past retirement age, this belief begins to feel like fact. Our days fall into familiar patterns. The world around us moves so fast that it sometimes feels like we've been left behind. But let me tell you something, from one senior to another, that voice is lying to you. This belief that you've passed the age of transformation is not just untrue. It's one of the most damaging things we can accept. Because when we say it's too late, we stop trying. We shrink back. We give up on ourselves long before the finish line. But change doesn't belong only to the young. I want to tell you about Frank. Frank was 78 when his wife passed. They had been married for over 50 years. For the first time in his life, he was completely alone, and in his grief, he believed that his life was over, too. Days went by in silence. Meals came from the microwave. He told himself, "What's the point of anything now?" But one day, he did something small. He stepped outside and sat on a park bench. He didn't speak to anyone, just watched the world go by. The next day, he went again. And again. A week later, a little boy waved at him from the playground. Then his mother smiled. Within a month, Frank was helping kids learn how to play chess in that same park. His life didn't go back to the way it was, but it started moving forward again. And it all began with that single step out the door. Or take Ruth. She was 84 when she picked up a paintbrush for the first time since high school. She had always told herself she wasn't talented. But now, with time on her hands and nobody to judge her, she decided to try anyway. What started as a quiet hobby in her garage turned into a local gallery show by the time she turned 86. People lined up to buy her paintings. Not because they were perfect, but because they were full of soul. Full of her. Ruth told me once, "I thought my best years were behind me. But I was wrong. I just hadn't lived them yet." These aren't extraordinary people. They didn't have money or special skills or powerful connections. What they had was courage. The courage to believe that their story wasn't over. Science now tells us something many of us didn't hear when we were younger, that the brain continues to grow and change, even into our 80s and beyond. It's called neuroplasticity. That means it's not just possible to change, it's natural. We can form new habits. We can learn new ways of thinking. We can become more hopeful, more peaceful, more curious, no matter what age is on our birth certificate. And change doesn't need to be dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as choosing to smile at the grocery clerk, drinking more water, calling someone you haven't spoken to in years. Write a letter to your younger self, saying yes to something instead of no. Every small choice becomes a thread in a new kind of life. But what stops us is fear. Fear of failure. Fear of looking foolish. Fear that if we try, we'll be disappointed. And yet, the truth is that not trying is what makes life grow smaller and smaller. The walls close in, not because they have to, but because we stop opening doors. There was a gentleman named Harold who came into a senior writing class I used to teach. He was 91 and had never written a single story. When asked why he came, he said, "I don't want to die with all my words still inside me." That one sentence moved everyone in the room. Harold went on to write essays that made us laugh, cry, and remember that it's never too late to leave something beautiful behind. So maybe you've believed for too long that your chances passed you by. The window closed. Who you are today is all you'll ever be. Let me gently remind you, you are still here. That means you still get to decide. You still get to love, to grow, to forgive, to try again. You are not too old to dance in your kitchen, to hold someone's hand and mean it, to learn something that lights a spark in you, to stand up for yourself, to look in the mirror and say, "I matter. I always have. And I still do." It's not too late. Not to write the poem. Not to take the walk. Not to heal. Not to begin again. You're not finished. You're still becoming. And the world is better with you still being in it. When all is said and done, it's the quiet habits, the small daily choices, that often shape the length and quality of our lives. We think they're nothing, skipping a walk today, brushing off a phone call tomorrow, telling ourselves we're just too old to try something new. But day after day, those little things stack up. And one day, without quite realizing it, we've drifted into a life of slow withdrawal. Not because we gave up, but because no one told us how vital those tiny decisions were. The truth is, aging doesn't have to feel like fading. Aging, when met with courage and purpose, can feel like returning home to yourself. Every moment you choose connection over isolation, curiosity over routine, movement over stillness, you breathe a bit more life into your years. Maybe you've caught yourself saying, "I'm fine," when really, you wish someone would ask how you're doing. Or maybe you've given up on that piano you once loved, that garden you said you'd start, or the book you always dreamed of writing. But here's the most powerful truth we can offer you today. It is never too late. Not for joy. Not for change. Not for something new. If even one small part of this story resonated with you, if you felt a memory stir or a moment of, "That's me," then let this be your sign. Change doesn't begin with grand gestures. It starts with waking up tomorrow and saying, "I'm going to try," and then doing it again the next day. So share this message with a friend, not just to help them, but to remind yourself you're not alone. None of us is. And this life of yours, it still holds promise. Choose something today, no matter how small, that moves you closer to the version of yourself you've always wanted to become. Sometimes, we go through life thinking the big things are what matter most. But in truth, it's the small, quiet habits, the ones we barely notice, that slowly shape our days, our health, and even how long we live. Skipping breakfast. Sitting too long. Saying, "I don't want to bother anyone." They seem harmless, even noble at times. But over the years, those tiny missteps add up. And before we know it, they've stolen moments we can't get back. Stolen energy, laughter, even time with the people we love. But here's the beautiful truth. It's never too late to choose differently. Whether you're 65 or 95, you still hold the power to change the story. You can pick up the phone and reconnect. You can go for that walk. You can ask for help without shame. Because these changes, no matter how small, can add years to your life and life to your years. So if any part of this message touched your heart, don't let it stop here. Share it with someone you care about. Let them know it's never too late for them, either. And most importantly, take that first small step today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. The next chapter of your life can be the most meaningful one yet, and it all begins with a single choice.